had some amazing results with some health challenges, and I thought, well, this looks better than what I'm doing. And I also have to thank my team leader, Karen Dennis. She goes above and beyond the call of duty to support her team, and it really is a powerful team. And I must thank the corporate office because Manatech Australia sponsors these presentations, so we've got the opportunity to do these webinars from the comfort of our own home. That's a huge thing. You know, you don't have to drive half an hour or an hour to get somewhere. You don't have to be out in the cold or the rain or whatever. Just in the comfort of your own home, you can have the best information available on your computer screen. We're proud to be here tonight as part of the greater leadership team of Australasia and the globe. A few of us have put our hand up to make sure our important message can easily be reached in a virtual way, right from the comfort of your own home. You can tell I think that's a big deal. Firstly, just imagine what it would be like to put your heart and soul into the world and have it touch off a movement or a revolution. It's a revolution that will inspire people to change their world, while at the same time changing the whole world. The information you're about to hear is a powerful snapshot of a vibrant company with groundbreaking technology that will leave you wanting more. It's about real people with real stories, a revolution on all levels. Please know that this webinar format doesn't allow us time to answer all your immediate questions, but the person who invited you tonight will be able to help you with more personal questions, so please remember that. Now tonight, we've got an extra special presentation tonight. It's our Women in Business presentation, which was put together. This is a creation of Sharon Whiteman, and Sharon's going to be doing the presentation tonight. Sharon had first-hand education with the Robert and Kim Kiyosaki team for almost a decade in the 90s, and she learned the strategies of mindset and action to become financially free. Sharon is very passionate about inspiring and coaching individuals to diversify their income streams. She is a consummate educator and communicator and has provided business education via weekly global conference broadcast, interviewing hundreds of leading business educators since 2003. Sharon says both consumers and businesses alike have to commit to making the world a better place. We have to commit to having a positive global social footprint. A home business with Manatech is the perfect choice. And now you're going to hear why from Sharon Whiteman. Over to you, Sharon.
Hey, Rhonda. Thank you so much. Hello, ladies. Can't tell if there's any gentlemen, but warm welcome to you as well. It's my great privilege to be here. And really, like Rhonda was saying, this has been a brainchild of mine for a long time. And I know I'm on the same page as that as one of my colleagues, Manda Keeney. We both love this content and both are very passionate about it. So, you know, and I think there's nothing more exciting than hanging out with a group of women with such an empowering topic. And I know it's really changed my life, and it's just precious to be able to share it. So a little bit about me. I'm a wife and a mother. I was a critical care nurse for almost 20 years. I had 3 certificates in critical care. I went on to work with Robert and Kim Kiyosaki and their group of trainers, and I learned to be an investor, both in shares and in real estate. I'm a volunteer, and I'm a business owner. So I guess that sounds like having a lot of fingers in different pies, but it's something that I've really learned that's important for me. So there's nothing more special and more empowering and more impactful, really, than to hear from people who are on track with this message. You know, making a decision to have a home business, and my decision was to partner with a certain company that we'll talk about later. It changed my life. You know, all this education I talked about, I wasn't raised to learn that. It wasn't something I saw in my family. My family was all about, you know, my age. I was told, you know, be a nurse or or a teacher, and you can travel along with your husband. My dad had the same job for his whole career. He retired at 55 after 40-some years in the same job. That's just not a reality any longer. So let's hear first from some people who have made a decision for a home business and how it's impacted their life and why they've done that. So first I'd like to call on Diana.
Yes, hi Sharon. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Excellent. Thanks for asking me to come on and share my story. I was actually originally introduced to this company for my health. A good friend of mine knew that I'd been unwell for many years, and this company opened in Australia, could see that they had something unique and special to offer, and let me know about that, of course. I took a look, and the science of their products made sense to me. So I jumped in there, and long story short, after a very long-term health challenge, these company products turned that around for me over about a 6 to 18 month period. So you can imagine that got my attention. And it just so happened that at the same time I'd moved to regional Queensland. And at the time I wasn't looking for a home business, so I was just looking to settle. It was a lifestyle choice to move to a regional area. But it became obvious to me really quickly after settling that I wasn't going to be able to rely on the local economy for the income and the lifestyle that I wanted. So it was those two things dovetailed at the same time that, I'd had these, for me, what was extraordinary health results, and I also needed to establish an additional income. So this business became an obvious choice for me. The other thing that happened was that I've always been someone who put 100% of who I am into what I do. I like to make a contribution. I like to make a difference, and I've always done that in whatever work that I've done. And I was in that situation. I was doing contract work. I was then given an employment situation, put my heart and soul into that, and the rug got pulled on me about 6 months. And it was kind of like a defining moment for me. It was at that point I thought, look, I'm no longer going to put all of who I am, my talents, my skills, my time and energy into 100% into someone else's business. I'm going to reserve some of that to me. So I jumped in and I learned the necessary skills. Like any business, there's a learning curve and there's training and to participate in. So I did that, and I built this business. And I now have a solid part-time business income coming in every month. And what that's given to me is time freedom. Like I have flexibility, and lifestyle freedom now. So there's times that you go away. I'm away at the moment. I've been away visiting my elderly parents, and I know I can do that for one. And I also know that the money's still coming in. I love the lifestyle that a home business offers. I love, that commutes down the hallway of my home, and that I have flexibility in the hours that I put into my business. And also, the other thing with our business is the sense of contribution that I mentioned earlier. That's so important to me. It's an innate part of what we do, is contributing to people's health and well-being on an individual level, supporting other team members, those that are wanting to build a business, supporting them in success with that. But also the contribution. The company have a social conscious, a social contribution program to malnourished children around the world. So that all comes together, for me to fulfill that part of me that needs to feel like I'm making a difference. And in addition to that, the community that we work with Manatech is an uplifting community. I feel supported and uplifted to greater and greater achievement in my business, which I know is very different to the corporate environment, which of course I've worked in previously. So there's so many bonuses there, but I'll finish it up there. I know you have some others to share their stories.
Thank you, Dinah. Thank you. I know you're on holidays right now, which is one of the blessings of the flexibility of this business, and thank you for beaming in from your holiday destination to be with us today.
My pleasure.
And Nick.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can. So I know, choosing the home business has been a journey and a blessing for you. Tell us about that.
Well, it all started when I met you online, just a click of a button, and I was introduced to this amazing world and this amazing community that I could really relate with. At the time, it just wasn't where my path was headed, so I took a U-turn, and I am now back at the other end of the U-turn and quite excited to be back here. I've had some international travel with the company. I've had national travel. I've bonded with amazing, amazing people that really have changed my life. I've learnt so much with the personal development, being able to be on our program called TOMS and just finding these different things and having a mindset that's positive and that you're relating with people and everybody in this community lifts you up, not like in the corporate world where people try to push you out the way to get on top. It's just a beautiful, beautiful community. And I absolutely love being part of that. It's really just changed my life. I've been able to help my children become healthy and teach them about empowering people in their lives and what goals they want to set. So that's really important to watch your kids watch you achieve your goals because they know it's doable. And I think I'm in a really lucky situation. I'm 43 now, and just recently when I was working out my goals, I realized I'll have everything I want in the next 5 years, and at the age of 48, I'll be happy and, really empowered and heading to where I want to be, where most people are starting to worry because they're going to hit the 50 and they're worried about what they're going to do in life. So I feel like this has been an amazing, amazing gift that I've been given, and I feel like it empowered me to be a whole new person. And I really thank my team and my support for that, and Sharon yourself as well.
Thank you, Nick. You're a definite inspiration for me. It's a real privilege to partner with you in this business. It's just amazing to watch you and to partner with you. I feel supported equally. So thank you for speaking up tonight. And I'd like to invite Rhonda. So we've tried to represent a whole range of different situations tonight. Nick has had a young family. Dinah was talking about from a career perspective. And Rhonda, one of our colleagues who introduced things tonight, she has a different perspective on how a home business has assisted her quality of life. So Rhonda?
Thanks, Sharon. Yes, well, I'm a little bit further on than Nick and Diana. So I'm a baby boomer, and I don't have another 30 years to do a whole lot of stuff. But I got involved with Manatech because of the products, and suddenly a business was building around me because people were saying, "What are you doing? I want it." So business happened quite accidentally to start with, but it was really amazing. And then after a while, I had 4 jobs at the time, so I certainly wasn't looking for anything else. And one of my jobs was 3 days a week for the government, and I've got to tell you, that was just so exciting. Not. And I've got a Manatech check this particular month, and I looked at it, and I nearly fell out of my chair because, goodness me, this Manatech check for the month was equal to what I was getting paid to working 3 days a week for the government, and each day involved another 3 hours of travelling. I thought, holy Toledo, I spend about maybe 10 hours talking to people, going to the meetings, having fun, and they're paying me for this. So I thought, if I pay a little bit more attention to this, I might be able to do better, and then I can quit this job. I tell you, it was killing me. It was killing me to go work in the government. So I didn't even do a great deal more work. I just paid a bit more attention, a bit more focus, and within 6 months I had doubled that income. And then I decided I was going to take long service leave and just make sure, it was a bit of a safety net. Rather than just quitting outright, I took long service leave to decide. And at that time, I'd won a trip to an executive directors conference interstate at some exclusive resort in the Hunter Valley. I'd won a trip to Bali. I should say earned because it's not won. You earn it through business growing. Trip to Bali, an iPad, a $500 bonus. It was just all happening. And in the next 4 years, working very part-time at my business, I was able to travel. We did so much traveling in that 4 years. It was just, I really felt that I had got my life back. And a few years earlier, I'd been having an interview with a financial planner, and he said to me, 4 jobs, over 50, more than over 50, I was approaching 60. He said, what's your exit plan? And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I was housing my mother. I'm, helping my family. I think my exit plan might be death. I can't see that I've got any relief from what I'm doing, all this work. I can't see any way out of it until I just drop. But Manatech has changed that. Whether I'm traveling, whether I'm at home, my income is coming in every month. It's not present. There was some work done for it, and there was we're the marketing team, so we talk to people. But I tell you what, it's got to be one of the easiest jobs there is to do, because our job is talking to people and sharing our wonderful experience with these awesome products. And there are no products out there that compare with what we have to offer. We can give people their health, help them restore and maintain their wellness, and offer them a life of choice. It's just been fabulous. And I say that Manatech gave me my life back, because instead of just being on the grind, I had choices, and that I didn't have before.
Rhonda, it's so inspiring for me to hear that, because, ladies and gentlemen, it is really important to help people really understand that there's something more out there to help them achieve what their goals are, whether, like what Rhonda says, just to cut back a job or two, to have a few extra holidays, to have some relief from the commute, whatever. Dana likes to walk down the hallway. Nick has a whole different dream for her and her kids and taking them on overseas trip. So whatever you can dream for and wake up to, and for some people it's chunk by chunk, you can achieve it by adding this in. So let's talk a little bit about how that works. So first, just to cover what we'll talk about tonight, is some of what we're talking about is very 21st century reality. It's not something that my family was faced with when they were raising me in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So it's a completely different ballgame now. We also want to cover some of the strengths and challenges for women with money and just in this world, the myths, the facts, the pros and cons about how to make money, how to change your financial situation, what works, what doesn't, creating income from home with integrity, and then also including something that's attractive to more and more people in the 21st century, which is making money with a mission. So let's talk about first part is some of the troubling, some of the tougher things. So right now, very commonly, if we could all see each other, if we were sitting in a circle of women, we'd be nodding our heads, knowing that it's most often challenges with health or challenges with money that stress us enough to keep us awake at night. And what we're talking about tonight is some ways to change both of those things. I think it's really important to be very honest with ourselves. I mean, it's something that I learned to do, and that's why I started to make changes. So, most people are cruising along and thinking everything's okay. They're looking good on the surface, but possibly and potentially in deep trouble lurking underneath the surface if something goes wrong with one of the jobs in the household, with their health. If something unexpected comes, do you have a safety net? Do you have something that's a buffer to devastation in your life? So really, in the 21st century, there's some real rough times coming, and I've got a little sad face there, time to be blunt. Employment is in terrible shape, and it's expected to get worse. The economic crisis is looming. They think in the next 5 years that there's going to be a depression greater than the Great Depression of the 30s. Like, it's going to be so severe. They think half of all jobs will be disappearing in the next decade, and that's already starting to show. I know if and again, if we could all be looking at each other and nodding our heads, if we were looking at our circle of friends, ourselves, or our community, there's people who've lost full-time jobs and can only find, part-time jobs or contract jobs. The full-time jobs are like almost like becoming extinct, like a disappearing race. And the situation of employment is completely different. It's not, and I think, one of the things that's really important for me is for people to wake up and see the writing on the wall. I have my family, luckily they can't hear me right now because they're in Canada, but my whole family grew up in the oil industry in Alberta, the province that I was. It's oil rich, and at the time that's fine. But I think the writing's on the wall that we need to move to save our planet and to be sustainable as a society, as multiple cultures on this planet. We need to move to more sustainable. So can you imagine yourself sitting in a job or a career that's part of an unsustainable aspect, that we need to get rid of oil, we need to move to solar and more sustainable energy. So, and I think there's many career sectors that have been long-standing, and that are destabilized because we have to move forward. Not that I don't lack sympathy or empathy for that situation, but it is a reality to look, am I in something that's going to be in a rapidly growing area, or is this something that we need to move away from, and do I need to prepare myself and my family? That's tough love, but I think it's really important to be having that conversation with ourselves and within our family. So I think, again, just with those topics, just, sort of seeds planted, take a look at your own situation. What's happening? Do you have the time that you want to do the most important things? I had dinner with a gorgeous friend tonight, and, she was saying, this is what my dream is. Like she has a job she loves, and she excels at it. She's excellent, just an amazing woman. But, I'd love to be able to just be home for my kids' concerts at school, or I'd love to be able to do this or to do that. So evaluate for yourself. What's that like for you? Do you have anything financially or energy-wise for emergencies? And from a financial perspective, looking at your good debt versus bad debt, because we're talking about financial literacy tonight, is your retirement prepared for? Like Rhonda, is your exit plan death? Or would you like to have a little relief and do a few cruises to the Melbourne Cup every once in a while, like my friend Rhonda? And another thing, are you doing what you love? I fell out of love with nursing. It was a great career, and it still is a great career. But for me, I started to feel drawn to more natural medicine and realized that the allopathic medicine alone wasn't the only answer from what makes my heart sing. So it was really important for me to find something that really made me feel proud and authentic. Oops, sorry, I just clicked the wrong thing. I mentioned at the beginning that I had the privilege of working with Robert and Kim Kiyosaki and their whole team of educators, some close friends of mine, Susie and PJ, and it was life-changing for me. And even though it was in the early 90s and I didn't take immediate action, that foundation of education was there for me. And one of the most important things that I took away was that really the financial rule book has changed. So some of the stuff I'm talking about, you can't stay where you're in the time zone that you were raised in. Things change, and you need to be sort of fluid and looking forward. I also learned about the definition of financial free. Being financially free means that you have more money coming in than beating all your debts. So you're in a positive cash flow situation. So in other words, we'll be talking about something called residual income, or passive income is greater than your expenses. And that can come from all different kinds of ways. We're going to explore a few of those tonight. So passive income is income that comes in whether you're working or not, and that can be compared to royalties from music, where they write it, perform an album and publish it, and they get money forever, or insurance trailers or mortgage trailers. It's income, and it's not that you don't do anything for that income. It's relative to your original effort, but then it's sold again and again and again and again. So it's a one sale up front, and then have the opportunity to continue to earn income from. The other thing that I learned from Robert and Kim Kiyosaki, and this is his original work, was something called the cash flow quadrant. Now you see it here, the E, S, and the BI. Simplified, they're talking about the ways money flows into your life. So E stands for employee, and S stands stands for self-employed. So both of those quadrants on the left-hand side, they're trading time for money. Now, being an employee for some people seems more secure, which I mentioned at the beginning. That's not going to be a reality going forward in the current climate. Self-employed, they have fired the boss ultimately, but they're still trading time for money. Like they typically sometimes even have less money, have less holidays because they have to pay other people first, because often there's a small business in the self-employed kind of thing. So they've bought themselves a job but not freedom. On the right-hand side of the quadrant is B for business owner, and that's typically big business, like 500 employees or more. And by definition, it's when you could be away from that business for a year and it thrives and continues to bring in positive cash flow with or without you. And then I stands for investor, where people have invested their money and they're making their money work for them. The interesting thing is that 80% of the world is on the left-hand side of the quadrant, and 20% is on the right. So there's different quotes, 80 to 90 and 20 to 10% on the right or the left. So the majority of people are like who I was, and some of you might relate to this, employed or self-employed. And you know what? The other thing I learned from Robert and Kim, there's nothing wrong with being an employee or self-employed. You just have to spend less than you earn and do something good with that extra. So if there's people who could be in very menial jobs and in jobs you wouldn't think could be financially successful, but they spend less than they make and they invest the extra. That brings them in, that has the potential to bring them into that right side of the quadrant. So this isn't about judging any particular choice. So tonight we'll be talking women and why. So this is some quotes from Kim Kiyosaki. The next economic boom will not be from the internet, nor China, nor India, but from empowering women. And, for tonight's purposes, we're saying empowering women in business. And I think you only need to do a quick Google search, and the largest growing sector, I think the group that's going to change the planet in its current crisis is going to be women rising up and making a change and making a difference. So this is a bit serious and a bit funny at the same time. Some facts about women and money. So nod your head all by yourself wherever you are about what relates to you. So historically, or maybe traditionally, women haven't always been considered money smart, have we? You could say that some of us have stayed in bad relationships for money. We've left the financial decisions to men or to the experts. Maybe we think we're not smart enough with money. Some of us have stayed passive in our money management areas or decision-making areas. We choose jobs or careers for child-rearing flexibility or for the husband's career, and I know that's what the advice from my family was. Be a teacher or a nurse. You can go wherever your husband is, and you'll always have a job. And sometimes we choose security over money. So, in relationships in particular, that's important. And anybody been well known for shopping? That's a bit of a comical one. And who has this going on for them? You can't be spiritual and wealthy. So sometimes we can reject wealth because we think that's not spiritual. And we'd like to challenge that thought, and that it's a traditional thought, but I'd like to challenge it. Just think of what you could do spiritually if you had extra money or extra wealth. There's so much more you can contribute to the planet as a wealthy woman than as someone who is lacking in abundant finances. Some disturbing statistics for women: 47% of women over 50 are single. Lower retirement income than that of men, because a woman is away from the workforce for an average of 14.7 years as compared to 1.6 for men. So in other words, we often have time away for child rearing and family reasons. 50% of marriages end in divorce. In the first year after a divorce, a woman's standard of living drops an average of 45%. Of the elderly living in poverty, 3 out of 4 are women. 58% of baby boomers have less than $10,000 in retirement. 7 out of 10 women will live in poverty at some time in their life. They get paid less than men for the same job, and they get passed over for promotion. So I know that's reading a list of stats, but I think those things, we need to drive that home. That's the reality. So potentially, are you living in a ticking time bomb financially? So have a look at this chart. I'll just explain it. You'll see 6 months, 1.5 years, 3 years, 6 years, 12 years, 24 years. So if you want to retire on $78,000 a year, which is pretty modest for most people, you need to have $2.6 million at the current interest rates saved. If you're retiring in 6 months, you better hurry up. You need to be saving $330,000 a month. All the way through, if you've got 24 years to retirement, you still need to be putting away $3,600 a month in order to just have enough to retire on at $78,000. So, I mean, I don't know anybody that's achievable. No average people is that right. So something to, often when we've done some of these events in a public arena, we hand out a sheet of paper and let people, not from a shame, it's a very personal experience. Are you ready to do a financial, integrity check on what's happening in your life, and are you prepared? And not to shock or upset anybody, but there's something you can do about it. Would you rather know about it now or when it's really, really too late? So that's kind of the bad news, but there's also really good news. We're very capable as women. We own 668,000, a little bit over that, or 1/3 of all small businesses in Australia. Half of all female small business owners have children are solo mompreneurs, and 81% of those work from home. Yay. Women setting up business from home is the fastest growing sector of the Australian economy. Women make or influence 80% of all purchasing decisions in the household. That's really important fact from perspective of approaching women in partnership. Women-owned businesses have less external debt, are more profitable, and profitable much earlier than those owned by men. So in comparing these stats, the bad news and then these good news stats, I suspect that we could all assume that as women, we don't know how great we are. Would you say? Like we have these fears, but on the other hand, we're so very, very capable. So what are the options? If that's making sense, what are the options for changing your financial situation? Let's look at a few of them now. So employment is one option. It can be great, especially if you love what you do and you can save that extra income to invest in doing something good with that. The challenges with that are income ceilings, destabilization of the job market. Jobs can be here today and gone tomorrow. And sometimes you're building someone else's dream. So, check in with yourself. Do you really love and feel aligned with what you're doing? Or really are you offering, giving your soul to someone else and you're not feeling quite aligned with that? Or even worse, maybe you feel not good at all about what you do every day. Another option is the share market. Obviously a very powerful choice, long-standing. Some of the reality of that is a significant capital investment. It's expensive to learn the skills. Sometime you can come on this webinar when we have Mandakini as our guest, and both Mandakini and I, and probably others on this call, have invested in the share market, and it's an incredible amount that you need to learn in order to be successful at it. And obviously in unstable markets, which we're going into even very dramatically as predicted right now, capital not only can decrease dramatically, it can disappear overnight. So, I have friends who were set and then they're super disappeared because of changes in the share market, and they're in trouble now. And I know that there's a long-standing Manatech colleague who had come, always taken the products, and then he came back to a meeting and said, listen, I'm just going to do a business because I love the products, I can trust the company and the technology, and, the share market collapse took 1/3 of our retirement income, so I don't need to do a full-time business, I just need X amount of dollars per year to get us back to where we were. And that's what's, it's a downside of the share market. And sometimes, there's, as skilled as you can get, there's nothing you can do. Sometimes it just happens. So it's best to have, multiple income streams in the pond, so to speak. Another very solid option is real estate investment. So again, another strong and long-standing strategy. I've had up to 10 properties at different times. Again, it needs significant investment and skill development for success. And many people, there's lots of courses you can do, but they're often tens of thousands of dollars to learn the skills. And you used to be able to start with no money down, and you probably can get a few going now, but they're tightening how you can, the money lenders are tightening, and they're changing the rules all the time. So probably, I mean, you can get started in the first home loan grant, build some equity and get started, but it's a slow growth, and again, there's still some risk. And, the other thing about the banking environment, when I was saying it changes and getting tighter, but it also can change. You can be on a certain path, and they can change it overnight on you, which is a bit of a challenge. There's also traditional business. Again, nothing against any of these choices. We're just evaluating just the raw facts. So franchises, you can start or purchase one from scratch. You can buy a franchise. Again, you look at the investment here, $10,000 to $1 million for average franchises. I've got a close colleague who had a challenge with a franchise. The franchisee, it ended up to be a disaster situation, and I don't know if I would say they lost everything, but it wasn't a positive outcome. I had one of the moms at school, they bought a franchise, and they're very skilled people, and she said, we'd never do it again. You can't market here, and, we'll be happy if we get our money back, if we get out at even in 5 years. Like so ultimately, they've bought themselves some cash flow for 5 years, but there's no ability to build an asset. So that may not be true for all franchises, but again, it's not so solid as what sometimes is predicted. So what we'd like to propose tonight is something called Understanding Network. So you can see here, producer, wholesaler, advertiser, retailer to the consumer, and then sharing to word of mouth. So this is what a traditional model is. So you have a business, you set it up, and those are all the steps in between. A networking business is exactly the same, only instead of having all those middlemen, they partner with us. So we say you've got a major company, they partner with individuals in the field, and we do the marketing. We do the share the word. We do the reaching out. We do the passionately representing the technology or the product. And if you choose a company that you would use the technology or the products or the service anyway, and that you would share your friends anyway, then ultimately it's just a match made in heaven, and that's definitely been my experience. And the other thing is in marketing trends, people, I don't know about you, but I never purchase anything without looking at all the reviews on the internet. I go find out what other people are saying, and sometimes they can be stacked yesterday, or stacked, yes. But I also, how many of us, again, if we could all see each other, there'd be people online going, hey, on Facebook or wherever you happen to be on social media, who's bought with this, or where do you know where to get that? What plumber do you recommend? We're looking for word of mouth recommendations because it's a safer bet, isn't it? And that's a modern trend that this business takes advantage of. The other thing is that you'll hear some negative things about network marketing or networking businesses. And I think it's really important to be discerning about who you give power to their opinion. So people will give you opinions, but if you really tracked it down, it's not based on facts. It's based on, Uncle George had this bad experience once in 1980. Or, anyway, it's not based on experienced, knowledgeable, expert people. So this is my way of doing it. I always look at the downside, but I also look at both sides, and then I use my own intuition. I can tell you that modern networking is the way of the future. The other thing is, yay, women, 82% of women in the United States are making $100,000 or more a year do it through home-based businesses. It is absolutely the most amazing and low-risk way for you to earn significant income. And God, I love working with women. It's amazing. Oh, something went wrong with this one. So why Manatech? So Manatech is a company that I think one of the things you need to do is evaluate the company. And the company that we're recommending tonight is Manatech. It's one that I've been partnered with for 19 years now. They're an amazing company. But you need to look at, when you're choosing a company, you need to put, say, what you'd want to call your business analyst hat on. So you want to look at it with a strategic thinking perspective. So look at, are they strong or are they stable? Are they expanding their markets? How much money do they pay out? Are they socially responsible? Is it a company that has cutting edge or unique products? Is it something that's in a shrinking market? Do you have, is it scientifically validated? And is there training programs? So again, ask all those critical questions in regards to whatever you evaluate. We're recommending Manatech tonight, and I can highly recommend it, but you need to be discerning in that way. Some minimum, just basic facts about Manatech. We deliver world-changing nutritional solutions. We've got real food technologies that nobody else has. We have nutritional glycans for both inside and out, inside the body and on the skin. Nobody has what we have in that. We're launching a brand new food source vegan fat loss system right now that's just revolutionary. And it's like, if anybody that's ever done a meal replacement shake, this one is hands down better. And we've got people, some of the people that I know that have always used, meal replacement shakes or protein shakes. They have this one. It lasts longer. It feels better. It tastes better. Feels better in their body. Just in that little tiny market, it has the ability to completely wipe it out. So Manatech is a company with this technology that they've done the science, and you can trust your wellness to. It's exceptional. They also are a social giving company. So every time somebody purchases or on a regular order, any kind of order, a malnourished child somewhere in the world gets fed. So you can see this is a very obvious and visual example. This is Ingrid, and you can see the difference that our technology made in a matter of 6 months. And I've actually seen a 1-year photo of her, and she's now smiling. So you see the right-hand 6-month photo after using our nutrients. You can see the visual recovery, and then she's moved from there to being a smiling, happy child. So, every time that you're taking action in your business, every time that you inspire someone to take nutrition or use the skincare or use the meal replacement shakes, or we've got incredibly powerful and high-quality essential oils coming onto the market. There's so many ways that you can bless a household. It also blesses a child somewhere in the world. And you know what? Business has to do that in the 21st century. So the bottom line is it's all about you. What is it that's important to you? Each of us, again, if we were sitting in a room, we would all have different needs as to what's important, what our goals would be, what our ideal lifestyle would be quite different. Some of us would want more relaxation, more time with family, more holidays or adventure, more money, more contribution, more freedom, more health. I mean, the list could go on and be completely unique and maybe a combination of these. But just give yourself the blessing of really considering what's really important for you, what pulls you, what drives you, what's missing, what's your heart's desire. The other thing to think about, again, in that raw reality kind of perspective, is what you're doing now going to get you to any of those things in the next 5 years. If you have some real pulling, heart-wrenching dreams and desires, are you taking any steps towards that? Is what you're doing now going to get you there? And whether that's a yes or a no, how does that feel in your body? What is your choice? I think sometimes, most time people think the reason they don't take steps towards some of those real goals that pull strong at them is because they think they can't do it or it's not possible. And I can tell you I thought that, but it really is. It's just, same as you can learn something new to go to a new job or learn something new to do a new hobby, you can learn something new to do this. It's easy to get started. Ultimately, you've got a coach walking with you at every step of the way. And really, the most important thing is what is your heart desires, and then we can help you make steps towards that. So in conclusion, the only person who's going to give you the security and the life you want is you. You really can do it. We're here. Whoever invited you to be here tonight will walk each and every step with you. You take one step, we take two. And to work with, obviously we work with men as well, but tonight we're celebrating women. And it's so amazing to be part of a vibrant community that are positive, are working to be the best they can, and making such an amazing positive impact on the planet. It's really an exciting thing to do. So we invite you to get started, dive in, get back to the person who invited you here tonight. There's no better time to get started. Just partner and get started in the training programs. It's all available to you, and get out and go for your dreams. I deeply appreciate you being here tonight. It's nice to be with you, and hopefully we can hang out again in the future. And actually, I'll just say one more thing. Next time we have this, we'll be doing a series of these Women in Business webinars in 2017. Bring your friends. You know, this is something that is only good news to pass on. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Sharon. What a tremendous presentation you do. We acknowledge and thank all of you for being here tonight and giving up your time to listen to this very important message. Please get back to the person who invited you here tonight and get started. If nothing changes, nothing changes. And if you want to see a change in the world, you have to make a change. So remember, this is a fortnightly presentation. Well, actually, at the moment it's weekly, and we are going into recess into December and some of January. So make the most of the last couple of weeks and make sure you're here on the presentation, because we're talking about getting yourself in really good shape for the Christmas period.